Yeah, man. Well, I think actually, first off, I'll say because I've started recording now properly, so we're proper recording
Oh,
and everything. Welcome everyone to Mate It Show,
oh, hey.
which is a stupid title for a stupid show idea that I had, for a stupid little group of that's fucking amazing. So, goddamn it,
Yeah,
welcome. It looks like we're going to be talking Trek, sort of like gonna, I guess for Strange New Worlds at least. If anyone else wants to get involved, we're more than happy. Just get in touch with us. But I just kind of figured it would be cool to get to engage a little bit more with this group. You know, I kind of I feel like I neglect it sometimes, and Mike picks up the slack a great deal. In fact, you do all the work in the group. So
I don't do all the work. I don't do all the
the
work.
only work that happens is done by you.
And we should say on the group, if you haven't seen Strange New Worlds yet, if you live in a territory that Paramount Plus does not exist in, eventually Paramount Plus is out in June in a couple more geographies, but consider for all Strange New Worlds, links will be in the in the doobly doo, as they say.
Doobly-doo. Took me
Yeah.
half an hour to explain that to my dad. The Paramount thing, and I was like, "Strange New Worlds is starting," and he was like, I'm fucking out of it. When's that coming out? Oh, you won't be able to see it. You're not gonna be. No, you can't see it. How are you gonna watch it? Computer. Ah, fucking really, fucking.
Yeah.
That's how old Yorkshiremen sound. Really, fucking, you bastard.
Paramount, can't organise a piss up in a brewery, really, when it comes to streaming.
When it comes to the streaming and advertising and all that, no. But when it comes to making Star Trek, this episode, I reckon they fucking figured it out.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. Love that title.
Did you like it?
I love that title card. I love the title card. The little, the like what Star Wars and Marvel have before any of their shit. Star Trek now has the.
Which I can't remember it. Was it under Star Trek Universe? Because that's apparently the name of all the shows. What they operate under now is a Star Trek Universe.
The STU. The STU. Oh, no,
yeah.
That's
Stew.
The stew.
The stew.
Oh,
that's apparently what it was being reported. That's locked in the back of my mind somewhere, so it must have been reported at some point.
That's amazing. Now every single thing that happens in Star Trek is going to get mixed into the stew, baby.
Yeah, I mean, God only knows. Obviously, from the MCU or whatever, they feel like they've got to have a title for the universe. But everything's self-contained anyway, and has been since the 60s. You're not worried about a spum out there making content.
Hey, I'm not worried about spum.
No,
I ain't scared of no spum.
I ain't scared of spum. No,
I'm afraid of them. Anyway, but yeah, so we'll do non-spoilers first. What did you think of the episode overall?
I very much liked it. Of course, there's one or two things like it. It's obviously more self-contained, but you can see where they're setting stuff up really, and it has to reference disco, and I feel like the references to disco probably slow it down a bit, but are probably important to the episode enough that you're not. It doesn't feel like you're wading through crap when you're referencing disco and a show that's a lot of people don't like, apparently, from what I hear. So from what I hear, they like to complain about it. But when you've got the show and everything, everyone's working on one particular storyline, even if it's different people on the Enterprise, people on the planet. They're all working towards a common goal rather than the more COVID affected seasons of the last two Treks we've had, where people are split up and they'll touch base with another every 2 episodes.
Everyone's
You know,
it
there's
was
none of
very
that.
much in like what was the word that they had? Was it clumps, nests? What was it
Yeah.
they called it? People pods, when people
Yeah.
were allowed to be in a pod together.
Podding up.
Yeah, podding up.
Yeah.
I think that's what they called it. But I
So
think but like the callbacks to Discovery, I think are just kind of like a necessity of any kind of spin-off.
Well, that, and you know, it for, again, still in non-spoilers or whatever, but the resolution of the episode is framed around you know, Pike's experiences in Disco season 2.
Yeah.
So, you know, for anyone who's forgotten, because Disco season 2 was ages ago. Pike saw him being in a fully black wheelchair beeping away. He saw him getting hit by Delta radiation and all that. So he's living with that now. He's living with seeing his own. He calls it death, but you know, the death of who he was.
I mean, yeah, it's easy for someone to see it that way, considering, you know, the Pike that we got in season 2 was very kind of vital and alive, and, you know, very much, you know, active. He was on his feet, you know.
It's a big shame that Time Stone didn't show him, you know, him getting to walk around again.
Yeah, it didn't show him the like, oh yeah, but then at the end of like being, you know, a head in a box for however many years, you're gonna go into like a virtual dreamland on the planet with the people with the big pulsating vein heads.
Yeah, Talos 4.
Talos 4, that's the one.
I've got a terrible...
not the planet with the people with the pulsating heads.
Yeah, I've got a terrible memory for episode titles, but I can sometimes do a planet or two.
Yeah, man, that I love that effect from that episode in the original pilot episode. It's just like, oh, it's so gross. I love it.
Yeah, it's the melting face, because, you know, obviously when he sees it and when he re-sees it in this episode, it is still melting away, you know, whereas in Cage and Menagerie, it's pretty much fixed.
Fixed.
Yeah, it is.
It's set.
Oh no,
it's not fixed.
Yeah.
It's set. It's set in place.
They've left him out for a while, and he's set.
Yeah, it's scabbed. Well,
how about you though? What did you think of the episode?
I loved it. The resolution in particular, like for me, what I love in science fiction and what I especially love about Trek is the metaphor and allegory to today. You know, and this episode has a good message. It talks about it's the thing that's happening in the episode, and it resolves what happens in the episode, but it does so in a way that where, you know, it very much feels like they're talking about us today, here on planet Earth, in the real world.
And it's the same sort of message where, you know, Trek doesn't say, or at least to me, that things are going to be perfect, or we're not going to have to go through struggle before things get perfect.
No,
but, you know,
no, it very much like I was talking to a friend. I was saying, like, this episode. Pardon me, I'm burping from drinking lager. I'm gross. A lot of people complain that New Trek, spelled NU, like new metal.
Yeah.
So like New Trek, Star Trek Discovery being like the Linkin Park of Star Trek, very emotional, very loud, but also very, like, you know, slick. That was an ad lib. I just came up with that. What was I saying? Oh yeah,
but it's different demographics as well.
Yeah, it's different demographics. New Trek isn't Trek. It's no longer hopeful. It's all emo and depressing and what I've done.
But it's not. There's different demographics that you aim for.
Absolutely. But this episode was very hopeful. It was all good, but in saying that, it was also like it's also kind of daunting because, you know, it does imply that, you know, we still potentially have much deeper struggles to go through before we can get to the socialist utopia of Star Trek.
we've got some shit to go through before we get to some happy times, really.
Yeah, some of the imagery in this episode, I'm looking forward to getting into. Sure.
What in real life or just talking now?
Well,
I look forward to experiencing that imagery myself in 2036.
Well, I mean, some of it, you know, no spoilers, but some of the imagery is some things from the real world.
Oh yeah. There's real world stuff, and then it changes to some stock imagery, some new CG stuff for the show, obviously.
Yeah.
And don't you love it when Star Trek holds the mirror up and points out how shit we live at the moment?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's vindicating as a person living on the Earth in today.
Yeah.
It's vindicating, and I love it when Star Trek holds that mirror up, and I go, yeah. And then I hold the mirror up, and I go, yeah. And then it's me and Star Trek holding mirror at each other.
I don't think they'll. Obviously, they kind of they're not so good at a prognosticator. I don't know words. That you know what I mean. Oh, you know.
Hey man, this is not the time nor the place for no prognosticating.
No. Yeah, I should use £2 words rather than £10 words.
£10.
But if they actually like fulfill what they did in this, and Star Trek maybe should be doing more of. Season 2, there's shit going on in America at the moment. I don't know if you heard over the last week. With certain laws being repealed, Trek in the ideal should hold mirrors up to that sort of thing. And they've got a year now to get writing and to get an episode in the bank that is that sort of thing. Although I'm sure they're already writing or written a fair bit of season 2 already. But for standalone stories, you can be more reactive. You don't have to plan out.
You can focus on individual issues. You can have I wouldn't be surprised if there is if we see a lot of metaphor in this next series. I'm hoping for it anyway. But we saw some today, and it's what people kind of have looked forward to in Trek.
Yeah. So if we get an abortion-based episode or a metaphor for the abortion debate next year, then it's it's what it should be for, this sort of thing, and it's what TOS did well, and it's what TNG did well a lot of the time, or some of the time.
And it's something with Picard, I feel like they touched on they had the episode where
they walked past fires.
They briefly glanced at certain social issues. It definitely kind of felt a bit more like they were just kind of reminding us that they were there, which is fine, and that needs doing. We need to be reminded at all times that the planet's on fire.
It still feels weird for me. Rios had that whole experience with ice. And at the end of the season, he's still, again, sorry, Picard spoilers, he's still like, nope, this is where I want to live. I've got my hot nurse and I've got proper cigars. I fucking love it in the past. This is me.
Say, bro. I was like, in my head, I was like, are they going to bring them to the future like they did in but they can't do. That's how they do. That's what happened in The Voyage Home.
Yeah, I mean they did everything else from The Voyage Home. Why can't they do that? If you were hot nurse and you had the choice of going to be living in other than her son apparently needed to be there to cure pollution and stuff like that, you either have to have your boyfriend from the future join you in the past and live through some terrible shit coming on.
And he's just like, no,
or you go in the future.
No, can we go to the future? No, we're going to stay in the past and get ready for World War III.
Yeah.
We'll
batten down the hatches. Yay.
Cool. It really, I say, it really makes you wonder what is Rios running away from?
Well, apparently his responsibilities. He's a captain of a starship, and he's I'm a bit bored of this already.
Like, you know what? I kind of thought I wanted to be the captain of the Federation starship, but I actually think it kind of fucking sucks.
I've done this for a year.
I've still got like 4 years on my contract. Like, I'm still signed up for however many years. I'm gonna fucking desert.
My future girlfriend is a Borg now, and or my future ex-girlfriend lives in the future as a Borg, and maybe I don't want to go back there.
I'm just not into that. God.
No.
So just before we go into like non-spoilers, then should we maybe like just quick word on like some of the characters and stuff?
Yeah.
Personally, I was a big fan of just about everyone. What we got here?
There's some that get more play than others.
Some that get a lot more play than I thought they would get. Like we definitely get fed a lot of inklings of some storylines and some things to come on a few characters. We don't meet every character, so like the episode isn't like oversaturated with and my name is Chiki, my name is Cha-Cha. Or any of that. So yeah,
Hemmer, the chief engineer, beams in like
in the last
pretty much 30 seconds before before the episode ends. And to be fair, he probably needs more.
I'm excited, probably because he's got to explain like everything. He's blind. He's a blind.
He's a blind Anar.
Anal.
Well, yeah. And apparently there was only, Shran only thought there was about 1,000 of them left. So, he's one of a 1,000 of a subspecies of Andorian, which, it's nice one on a crew finally.
Spoilers?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I fucking loved every second of this episode. Like, full on, straight up. Like, it is everything I wanted. It was gorgeous. It looked good. The cast are all great. I'm looking forward to getting into it with those. Them lot. Fucking Pike's great. Spock's great. He's another excellent job by another wonderful Ethan.
He needs a proper haircut though. That's Spock.
Never mind haircut. He needs chest hair.
Well, he's
Spock
easily
has chest hair.
He's easily the buffest Spock.
They trimmed him down. They made him all smooth for this. It's ridiculous.
He's got neck down alopecia, this Spock.
Yeah, ridiculous. Maybe it's for when you're in like, EV suits because they're very tight now.
That, or we know he was on Vulcan for fucking, so maybe he's trying to reduce friction.
Man, I tell you what, I was kind of disappointed. Like, we'll get to it. I was kind of disappointed that we got the sex scene in the first episode. I wanted a little bit more. I wanted to build up a little bit more anticipation.
You wanted that mystique. Yeah. I mean, you can see why.
I like the build up. I like the.
You can definitely see why T'Pring is like so hot and horny in TOS that she's just like, no, you were gone for so long that what I did is I've arranged this whole thing for you to die and me to just fuck this new guy.
That's a long time to think about this.
Yeah.
She's just having like that whole time in a Mog time. She's just having flashbacks to that night in this last episode. She's just like, you deserve this.
I asked you to marry me, and you left me.
You went to go hang out with a very handsome man.
And should I be worried?
You come back with a different handsome man.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
But like, what I thought was good with Spock as well, since we're talking Spock, is you can definitely see him being a lot personable with Pike. You can see that they've got a history. Like when he calls and interrupts sexy time, T'Pring, I think, calls Pike by his first name, you know, they're all on first name terms. Pike knows, whereas Kirk didn't know. Yeah, Kirk is like, oh, you've got what are you talking about, a wife? Whereas like Pike's got this inbuilt, you know, oh no, we've been friends for a while. He's been my first officer for a while.
Yeah, no, Kirk's like, Kirk's very much about himself. I would imagine Spock, like Kirk didn't even know that Spock's dad, like Sarek was Spock's dad when they first met. Like, you know, Spock didn't tell him until he asked if they knew each other. Pike would absolutely know that. I bet Pike and Sarek have conversed often. What we know they have.
Yeah, they've met. They've definitely met. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they are Facebook
friends. The Zuck of the future is mining their data.
Yes, when Zuckerberg is like Futurama style head in a jar.
Yeah. So, you know, Spock, other than he needs a haircut, fantastic. He needs a haircut and he needs those sideburns shortened. I went back, you know, because I was watching everything and saw Discovery, the end of season 2, when he comes in with a shaved beard and stuff like that. And he's just got proper sideburns, full sideburns rather than like Trek ones.
Sideburns, like I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like that in that ending of Discovery, and I think it's just because we go from like bearded Spock to smooth Spock, and that is always a jarring transition. I just shaved earlier today, and immediately I was like, ah. But now I'm like, yeah, this is all right.
I mean, they're fine, but they're too long. You know, the Trek has, you know, pointed.
Mine or Spock's?
Yeah, I'm going to say Spock's. I would never comment, even. No. Never comment. But like Spock's are fine. They're just too long, and you know they do this weird point forwards thing where it's I
mean, this Star Trek always has the point, but because they're like, you know, ever since the original series, because they always like it's the 60s and it's like old school barber rules. So you'll always see there is a line. So there's a line
it goes forward a bit.
Tip of your ear to the tip of your lip, and that should be like that's like old school barber rules of like where you kind of shape things on your cheek.
Okay.
And the tip of most of their sideburns lines up with that line. And that's the thing. So like if you trim your cheekbones. If you keep growing a beard and you just trim like that bit of your cheekbones, you want to be sticking along this line. But let's keep.
And here's me just like whacking them off. Yeah, we've moved on to hairstyling.
Anyway, but we'll talk about more of the style when we talk about like the uniforms in a bit.
Yeah.
Should we just go through like the start of the episode? We open up with what is the name of the planet?
It's Kylie 279.
Kylie Minogue.
Kylie Minogue version
Minogue.
Version 279.
Yes.
With apparently an incredibly small ship, the USS Archer.
Yeah, one little drive section with a little nacelle. I thought it was cute.
That and free crew. That was its total crew complement. There's 400 people or 200 people on the Enterprise.
It's the ship that's a salt shaker in the 2009 Star Trek, and presumably with a crew complement of 3, it was about the same size.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one, but you know, it's a nice looking ship. So the USS Archer is above Kylie Minogue's planet.
Kylie Minogue, and we are treated to aliens who are like one of my favorite Star Trek tropes, which is aliens that are at the same level of development as we are now, which is always a cool. I always love it when they do that. I love it when they did that in the First Contact episode of Next Generation.
Yeah,
one of the more problematic episodes, I would say. of Next Generation, just because of some of the content, or depending on
Oh,
the way you look at
because
of the
what's her name?
not
Not Frasier's wife.
no, it's not. Is it Fraser? No, it's Fraser's.
Yeah,
wife. We never saw Niles' wife, did we? We never saw.
No, we didn't. We didn't see Maris. Yeah. And for whatever reason, I can't remember Niles' wife, Frasier's wife at the moment.
Drop that if anyone's watching. If anyone's watching, put it down in the comments below what fucking Frasier's ex-wife was called.
No. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I love it. They did it in that episode of Voyager where the planet moved really fast. You know,
in typical Trek tradition, they are,
which is definitely kind of Trek.
Yeah, and in typical Trek tradition, they are humans with shit stapled onto the face, or glued onto their faces.
Did they have like flipper hands? I think.
Did they?
Maybe.
I missed flipper hands. I know they had like Dax style tattoos down the legs as well.
Yeah, no, it's in Next Generation First Contact when they had flipper hands.
Oh yeah.
It's like Danny DeVito in Batman Returns.
Yeah. Yeah. She's gonna have an interesting night. Lilith, thank you, Jason.
Nice one, Jason. Lilith. Oh yeah, because like she's evil, and she was goth. So Lilith, yes,
incredibly attractive in both.
Hey, that's goth.
Yeah. But yeah, she would have had an interesting time with Riker once to get those flippers off. You know, there's stuff I imagine you can do without flippers that you can't with flippers.
That's exactly why it was going down. And like, you know, if you listen to some conspiracy theorists, they'll tell you that there is a secret alien breeding program going on within the deepest levels of global government, where they're secretly snatching people up and forcing them to breed with aliens. And listen, I don't believe that conspiracy theory, because I reckon if they wanted to do that, all they would have to do is ask.
Yeah. I mean, we're willing and able here.
I'll fucking alien. But we're not here to talk about what aliens we would have.
Yeah. We're not going to go through all the species, at least on this episode of Mated Show of would you or won't you?
Yeah, no, oh man, there's definitely something there. Mate it show. Anyway.
Yeah. Even better.
There we go.
Does it go to Pike then? Pike and Robert April.
Pike, yeah, Pike. Pike watching The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah. Pretty much talking about the Federation.
Yeah.
You know.
What do you think of Mountain Man Pike? Very masculine, riding his horse.
Oh yeah.
Man beard.
Well, you know, I think we've all gone there over lockdown at some point. Anyone who could grow a beard would grow a beard at some point.
I've grown a beard before. I did the other one at the start of lockdown. I shaved my head.
You know, it's got to be done. You've got to change up the look. And
I did it for a short film I made for uni. I recreated the ablution montage from American Psycho, but instead of me doing like a skincare routine, it was mostly just like me walking around in my underwear, smoking weed and shaving my head.
I have seen that one. I have seen that. You did send it over. I was on the stream when you were presenting
you saw
it.
My ass. You saw my ass. I warned you all. I did warn. Bear in mind. I did warn. My ass is in this.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, you know, it's an interesting way to.
Should I warn them? And I was like, no.
It's an interesting way to be introduced to, you know, or the live action you. You know, having your ass presented.
I'm an open book, or as the Scottish would say, my bum's out the windy.
More calisthenics will close up that open book, I'd say. Are they joking?
I don't have it in me, man. I'm too burnt out to do any more yogic stretches.
Anyway, Mountain Pike.
Mountain Man Pike. Loved it.
Living in Montana, like, you know, Averitt's hometown. It's definitely where in The Cage he says, you know, I'm going to retire and go and, you know, live in Montana and stuff like that and eat picnics and stuff like that.
And I mean, like, it's a good life, you know. I mean, Starfleet's not a military, but he's a military man, and he's put his time in. He's got his homestead, and that's a thing
Yeah.
to think about, when you retire. I mean, it looks
It's
like a
visually
good life.
different as well,
Yeah.
because they could have just set it somewhere where it was summer and he was having picnics
They
and,
could have
and
said
stuff
it
like
at
that.
that place where they film nice things near, like where they filmed like all of the Nexus stuff in
Oh yeah,
Generations and wherever they filmed. Where
yeah.
are
They
They're
could
in
have done that,
Colorado.
but having it in winter and having everything like that
Yeah.
makes it more visually interesting for the
Yeah.
episode as well. You go through more different looking places.
We rarely see
Um,
harsh weather on Earth.
Yeah. Well, you rarely see different climates on any planet, really. Anytime they go to a planet, it's a very mono. It's one type of climate.
Yeah.
It is
Oh,
a
yeah.
desert planet. It is.
Captain,
this
this planet
planet.
seems to be made primarily of styrofoam.
Yeah. Whereas, you show at least that Earth still has different stuff going on.
Yeah.
In a very, it's not Kirk-esque necessarily, but he's got another captain that seems to me like a friends with benefits sort of thing, where they are captains, and if they're on Earth at the same point, they are they're going to town.
Yeah. Hey, it's perfectly healthy and
which
understandable with the pressures that come with command.
Yeah,
you see
it can't be any less healthy than fucking a random woman on a planet every week.
It kind of, in some ways, it quantifies the differences between Pike and Kirk. In that's Kirk's more of a banging random aliens kind of guy.
He's not though.
Pike can keep it in his pants.
Kirk bangs like
he's got
four or five random aliens, and two of those are, if you don't fuck this girl, I'm going to kill you. Or I need to fuck this girl to win her over so she'll let me out of this prison so I'm free and can get one over on the bad guy.
Yeah, but it's not about what you see. It's not textual. It's implied. Look at his face.
Yeah.
It's that face that he's always doing this. He's always doing he's got the face of a guy who fucks.
I will not say I will not say he doesn't have that face.
You know what face I mean.
He's not decided yet, or he's pretty much decided, let's say, that he doesn't want to return to the Enterprise. He's on a break as it's being refit or repaired after. It's probably after the end of Disco season 2, because it's 100 days after Disco season 2 ended. So I didn't
realize that. I assumed it was like a year.
No, they say, Spock says it's been 3 months, 10 days, so many hours, whatever. So it's been 100 days since they fought, Section 31 and all those little ships and all that crap. So it's probably been in refit, being repaired, and, any extra technology that we've got around Earth at that point, let's just load on the nice sensors now. We've got better sensors now. If you're being repaired, let's load those shit on.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know if he wants to go back.
Yeah, that's
because
the thing. Like, I wouldn't say I'd like you say he's all but decided. But you definitely maybe this is just me kind of reading into it, but you definitely kind of get the feeling like he just doesn't want to make that choice.
No. Well, he's waiting until the last minute to tell anyone, at least. He's saying,
making any kind of hard leaps.
He's saying, the Enterprise leaves in a week or two. I've still got plenty of time to make a decision. Absolutely. And that's because he's still fucked in the head from seeing himself,
totally, and
sitting in front of a freaking bar fire or whatever.
And as we keep saying, it's all completely understandable. Like the shit that he's got, the shit that he's seen, the shit that he's having to process is. I mean, there's getting like a terminal diagnosis, and then there's seeing the result of it, and then being told it's 10 years away or however long. So it's not even like even like, oh, I've got to get my affairs in order. It's I've got to I know I'm gonna have this hanging over me for the next 10 years.
It's not even seeing it though. it's seeing and feeling it. In Disco, he's like, and I felt every second of it.
Yeah.
When you're just like, Jesus Christ, it's not like having your face melted once. You felt that, and for the next 10 years, you're going to get your face melted at some point, which God only knows. I watched back Disco season 2 and his face melting scene. There's nothing to say which year it is that he gets melted the fuck, but he's like, oh no, that's 8-9 years away. I'm fine with that.
And as far as he knows, he doesn't know that his face will ever set.
He didn't see himself with a set face.
He didn't see it set in place.
He's a Magnum ice cream on a hot day when he saw himself.
So just getting on to the next bit, we meet Admiral Robert April, who was I think is a cool addition to bring into the series. Nice sort of bringing in TAS canon. What did you think of Robert April?
I thought it was very good, of course. And it fully establishes in canon that Pike was his first officer. Disco did it as well, but as a background thing. I presume you're the same, but
absolutely.
That people, when it comes to saying when it's like, oh, but canon, he's white.
Oh, but in canon, he was fucking animated.
Yeah, in canon he was animated, and in canon, in the 60s, everyone was fucking white. What do you want? It's trying to bring in, you're not trying to bring in more diversity, but it's obviously a point to bring in a bit more diversity to the cast, and hopefully we see Robert April again. Not everyone on that bridge needs to be white other than Uhura.
Absolutely. It's fucking, I saw a tweet that did me in, and it was just a guy saying, replying to the actor who plays Robert April. I forget his name.
Adrian
Holmes.
Oh, Holmes.
He posts that he's going to be playing Robert April, and someone commented, "Star Trek is dead," and that was on Star Wars Day. So big win for the Star Wars nerds.
Yeah.
On Star Wars Day 2022, Star Trek died the day before bringing out a new series.
I mean, Star Wars has died for those people as well. They're those people that kind of accept. Not everyone likes the sequel trilogy, or everything that Disney is doing with Star Wars, and not everyone likes everything that's happening with Star Trek. It doesn't mean that oh well, it's dead to me. Your old shit still exists. If you want to see a white Commodore April, you can still watch TAS. Yeah. You can still watch Counterclock and go, oh, I'm so glad he's got a wife, and when he gets younger, he's slightly older than everyone else.
Oh, great. Isn't that wonderful? Good for him.
I saw, I think it was the showrunner, and maybe it was the showrunner, maybe it was Adrian Holmes, responded to people on Twitter about the recast, and people saying, why did you change Robert April? And they went, well, we've made him a bit younger.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect way to handle it.
It was the guy who created the character when he was the guy who wrote that episode.
There we go.
He was just I like that he handled that with class.
Fucking children. It's a side character that appears in one animated episode. It's not like they've made, Kirk Black, anything like that. It's just a minor change.
Yeah.
Who cares?
To a character who is, they've not done anything with. So whatever.
Yeah. It appears in a total reference, including being referenced. He appears in 4 episodes of being and Robert April is a good captain, just written on screen. And you're like, oh my God, they've changed him from white to black.
Oh my God.
Who the fuck cares? Yeah.
Who cares? The only other image of Robert April is from a Star Trek encyclopedia where they photoshopped a Star Trek uniform onto Gene Roddenberry.
That's why people were saying oh, it's against Roddenberry's vision. And it's
No, it's against 1970s Photoshop.
Gene
What?
Roddenberry had Robert April as the captain of the Enterprise in like his first drafts, and then had Pike in like the drafts that made it to the Cage, and then changed the name again to James D. Kirk or James R. Kirk or whatever for the start of TOS. He's just trying out names. It doesn't mean that
Fucking Gene Roddenberry's original vision was a work in progress.
Right. Let's move on from Robert April anyway.
So
we pissed off people that we're going to piss off and we don't care about it.
Get fucked. The opening credits.
What do you think of the ship in the opening credits?
I loved it.
Yeah. There's something, I don't know whether the materials on it don't look 100% metallic to me. And I don't know what it is,
I don't mind it. Like, I wasn't so much concerned with the scenery because I wasn't so much concerned with the finer details. Rather, I was more concerned with the scenery. And what I liked about it more than anything, it reminded me of like the animated series opening credits because it was very colourful, and obviously very similar to Star Trek Rebels. What's it called? Prodigy.
Star Wars Rebels. Prodigy.
Prodigy. Star Trek Rebels.
Yeah.
That's what I'm called.
Star Trek Prodigy.
Yeah.
That or Voyager, flying through interesting phenomena in space.
Cool.
Interesting, cool. It shows off that, the ship is, one of the characters. It shows that they're going to strange places, which, it's the title of the show. They better be going there. Yeah. So
I hope we, I would imagine just with the way that people that make TV now are very clever. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of the, if we go to some of the planets that we see in that opening credits.
Yeah. I mean, compare it to like, I honestly don't want to, just completely shit over Discovery all the time. But Discovery's opening credits are early 2010s on credits, where they're all made by, the same company or the same two companies. It shows a schematic of this, and it zooms in and does whatever.
I think that like it's Discovery that is very much informed by the setting of Discovery's first season, with it being a prequel.
Yeah,
and but now that
so is this though, and this feels
but that's this is a prequel after years of people going the Discovery opening credits is kind of shit. So I think I definitely it definitely seems like that they've taken on board a lot of stuff. Ever since the MCU started hiring actual comic book nerds to supervise on their projects, the film and TV industry has been a lot less afraid to embrace the weirdos, and so there's a lot of Trekkies writing for Trek now, which is good.
Yeah. And it's the way it should be. It's TOS had a open write-in, I believe, where if you're a fan and wrote a script and sent it in, if the showrunners thought it was good enough, they would take it, and they would take it and rewrite it a lot of the time. But that's how a good number of people came onto it.
Kid.
Yeah, you've got to fit within the box, or you've got to come close to the box.
We then Pike obviously he says okay, I'll do it, and we get treated to what I'm saying is a callback to the motion picture, but I will say probably one of the few downsides to this episode, which was Pike going up to the Enterprise, and I just don't think that sequence was long enough.
Yeah. It did seem weird him going up in a shuttle but then transporting to the Enterprise. Yeah,
and for us to not, do a couple of laps of the Enterprise, a couple of glory shots of some of the
Did you see, because it was a free berth shipyard. There was a Miranda style class ship in one of them.
I did not know it's that. No.
So there's nice. a TOS Miranda that is canon now, I suppose.
The Star Trek Online lot will be they'll be loving that shit.
Some of them will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they'll
So-
be loving it, and then they'll be complaining about having to buy Zen.
So Pike beams over.
What do you think of the ship? What do you think of the ship? I think the ship's fucking gorgeous.
I think it's very nice. I think it's almost as nice as you can get it while updating it.
You know, for me, the fact that if you take there's some wide shots of the Enterprise bridge from Discovery Season 2, and if you take one of those shots and you take a shot of the TOS bridge and you squint, they look the same, so it's fine.
I mean, obviously it's a bigger set,
but
because TOS had to have tiny sets because it had zero budget.
Yeah, it was a different format as well. We're everything's widescreen now, baby. It's all good.
Yeah, I would probably prefer Uhura's at the front left, off camera most of the time. I'd probably prefer her behind Pike, but for a bridge change, I don't think that's
much. We're talking
much.
about logically having communications. You want communications to personally. I would want communications to my right and facing me. I would want Uhura where Spock's station is in the original series, and her turned around and facing me.
Yeah. So there is an equivalent of 10 forward now. I'm happy with.
Yeah.
I was never one to care that much about there being a glass bridge. Instead of a view screen, it being glass. I don't care that much, really.
I'm okay with that.
Because it saves. I fucking hate any time where they've entered an Ambula and it's just like, oh no, it's static on screen, and it's just like, find anyone, get them to walk to a window, look out, and say, oh, instead of static, there's a ship in front of you. Fire at the ship in front of you. It's approximately 5 degrees off whatever, rather than looking at fucking static.
Yeah.
We're always going to have to butt up against, but they changed the ship, and Memory Alpha do this, where they go like, oh, Pike's Enterprise looks like the Enterprise in the cage, and then they refit it into the one in Strange New Worlds, and then they refit it again into the one in TOS. And
seems like a lot of work in your head to go, well, this is how I resolve this difference, is that it looked like this, and then they made it look all nice and slick, and then they were like, all right,
they made the bridge triple the size, and then they went,
and then they were like,
no,
we're bringing
tiny
back the plywood. We're bringing the plywood back in, and we're painting everything purple.
I do think they probably could have done more. And Enterprise, especially later seasons Enterprise, does very well on having manual switches, where all of Uhura's stuff is touchscreen. All the bridge controls are touchscreen, where I think you could probably, if you wanted to satisfy maybe a couple more people, and it would only be weird nerds like myself who would care, you'd put in more buttons. You'd sellotape more or glue more fruit pastels to screens which people press instead.
But we got it with
you could have done that,
Chief, with the little diodes with the transporter, instead of it being like a touch screen thing. It was like moving up volume controls.
Which, to be fair, considering how much the transporter craps out and how much at least current day touch screens aren't 100% perfect, I would want some real manual controls to push stuff up. Well, you don't want to end up like the motion picture Vulcan or whatever.
Thing. Well, I mean, how is that? I mean, is that really how the transport works? Where you're pushing it down, and as I slide it up, you're going further down. If I slide it down, so like if he keeps it halfway, is that like him keeping in the buffer?
Who knows? That's maybe how Scotty stayed in the buffer for 30 years or 50 years.
Like moving the dials up and down like this. Now you're here, now you're there. Now you're here, now you're there.
But that's fine. And the same when we were saying about Robert April, the people who complain about Lieutenant Carl or whatever station he has now, Kyle, being Asian and the transporter chief rather than a white guy again.
Oh, was
Grow
it,
up,
is that
get a
is that-
life. Yeah, so that was a character that appeared in unnamed for a good number of episodes, and then he got a name given to him by Spock in a bit of TOS, and he's just generic white guy. Generic white guy, red uniform. And you go, well, I don't care if that guy gets a different he's a different race put on him, because his race wasn't anywhere near important to the character.
No.
And he's not an important character in
TOS. Like, I didn't even realize he existed. So, like, by the sounds of it, the only thing important to his character was that he literally filled space on a screen. So,
for a minor, interesting. Why not? Let's invent a segment called interesting. The person who played him in the Kelvin movies was Jimmy Doohan, or whatever Doohan.
YouTube Scotty.
Yes, or Star Trek Continues Scotty.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's cool.
So he's manning the transporter at some point in the reboot. And you go like, why not?
It's in his blood.
it's in his blood,
man. Like, yeah.
And again, it's so much of a non-character that people don't notice him or whatever. So what does it matter if he changes? Who cares?
So then we move on to
So Pike takes the thing. He gets Spock on. They
get into uniform. I want to talk about the uniforms. Right? What do you think of the new uniforms?
They're very, very nice looking. They are probably now the main version of them, because we've seen from the trailer at least there's 3 versions.
Yeah, there's
Lieutenant Kyle, or whatever his name is in a 4th version, which fine. They look incredibly comfy, and I do like them a lot.
Yeah, it's
they might be my favorite.
Like the direction that they've gone with a lot of Trek uniforms in the past few, like in Discovery and stuff. I always compare it to like athleisure wear. Like it looks comfortable but also durable and functional. They sometimes have a utility pocket on the leg.
Yeah.
I like it.
They might be slightly over designed in that apparently they've got the mini versions of their division stamped on, and it's hard to see in the episode, but because I've been uniform mad over the last couple of months, I've been looking at high res photos or whatever.
Kind of like they did where there's in like the Kelvin uniforms where there's like an image of the badges all going along. Okay, okay, I can believe that.
So
I think like
maybe slightly over designed there, but
I think that
I'm
there's too much shoulder structure. I like that I like the original series with the kind of the raglan kind of like baseball cut thing going on.
But the shoulder structure works for me, at least when I'm rationalizing it, because it's the structure of it where it's like that, and then there's bits on the side and straight through the arms. That's a follow-on from Disco, from where they had the lines up if they were in command or whatever.
Totally. So
it's a nice follow-on. There's like a nice connective tissue.
Yeah, I would imagine I can envision the shoulders losing the structure maybe in the next season or so. The other problem that I had with it was the undershirt. I didn't like the undershirt.
The shirt goes a bit too high and the undershirt's a bit low.
Isn't it? And it kind of makes the uniform look like a bit like an American football jersey.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. If I do any cosplay, I'm going more of a turtleneck type shirt.
Oh yeah. So what's your favorite TOS style? Because there's 6 of them now, or whatever.
Ones. Yeah. Honestly, if I was gonna pick a favorite, just in terms of like logic, and when I think about what you need in a uniform, I would say the Kelvin for the 2009 Kelvin uniform. It looks functional. It's got that it kind of looks a bit like a athletic jersey, movable. It's got that cut that I like on the sleeve. Whereas, like in the original series, it was like it was like a red or yellow, gold or blue shirt with a black collar. But in the Kelvin movie, it's the shirt with an undershirt under it. The trousers, they've got combat boots and combat trousers with pockets, so it's functional, it's structured, it's badass, and I love those uniforms for sure.
See, from what I hear, majority of people they're more Beyond uniform fans compared
it's too much structure in the shoulders.
Really,
too much structure in the shoulders, and I don't like what they're doing with the collar in Beyond.
Okay.
Don't like what's going on with that collar. What's going on with that collar, boys? I do like Scotty's leather jacket though. He's got he's got a nice jacket.
I do love, and I will scream to the high heavens that they are symmetrical uniforms again. I dislike the asymmetrical uniforms overall, and I dislike, if I'm honest, not being able to see a person's rank from different sides, and that includes TNG, where you've got your pips on here.
Yeah.
But if you're standing, here, then is that a captain, or can I kick him because he's an ensign?
Yeah.
You don't know.
I'm surprised that no one's ever done that visual gag.
Yeah.
Where someone's like, this fucking
this idiot, and you get up to him and he turns around and it's a captain, and you're like, I do like a bit of symmetry, which we all know Disco had the uneven collar and the uneven zip and stuff like that, and it's not the worst uniform in the world, but it's not my favorite easily.
No. I like the Discovery uniforms. I like what they did with it. I like when in season 2 when they just made the Discovery uniforms look all TOSE. Like, I loved those uniforms. Those uniforms were amazing. I'm disappointed we didn't get to see the actual Discovery crew in those uniforms.
Yeah, it feels very weird because in Discovery they shout out, the first episode that you see Pike or whatever, when you go onto the Enterprise, they say, "Oh, and you've even got the new uniforms."
Yeah.
The Discovery versions of the uniforms are looking very stiff. So anytime Anson Mount wearing one turns around, he turns full body.
Yeah, kind of like Daniel Craig in his tiny suit.
Yeah. So I do prefer the new ones because people, and you can only really see it with Anson Mount, of course, and to a degree, Una. They move a bit more naturally. So happy with that. It does. Do you want to know the minor fuck with the timeline of it?
Go on then.
Short Trek season 2, which the forgotten season of Short Treks because they couldn't air it on any sort of streaming service because it advertised 2 different streaming services because they're idiots. Let's be honest.
Worst marketing team in the streaming wars.
Well, the creatives, obviously, all the people who set up Short Treks don't know that they're advertising for Netflix and Amazon. So let's do an episode of Picard in there to set up Picard, and let's do the Discovery episodes, and let's that's great. We've done Discovery and we've reused the sets and we've set up Picard because Picard's the next big season we're doing, and that's really smart of them. What isn't really smart is the overall Paramount team going oh no, Amazon financed Picard, so we can't have the Short Treks on Netflix because it's advertising Amazon, and we can't have it on Amazon because Netflix financed Discovery.
It's Marvel and Fox all over again, isn't it?
It is. It's fucked in the head. Well, it's idiot people making idiot decisions behind the scenes, and it's not the creatives. It's not their fault. That they should have someone step in and go or arrange at least. Tell you what, Amazon, do you want to just have this episode? I tell you what, Netflix, you're not going to have a full season, but we'll give you this. Because at the moment, it's in territories like we are, it's "Oh, do you want to buy that on DVD? Because otherwise, you're not seeing this shit."
Yeah.
And it sets up.
I mean, like, surely, like, you would think, like, regionally speaking, you would be like, yeah, we'll do it worldwide, but in America, we'll just, because that's like their whole marketing strategy seems just to be based entirely around distributing in America. That's not
it's real stupid for
that's
how
not
international
greedy enough a solution for them, apparently.
No, but in any case, what I was saying was the uniforms they use in the Discovery or the short treks that are set on the Enterprise are apparently set. They say 120 days or 120 odd days after the end of Discovery. So after this episode, and they are wearing the incredibly rigid ones that you see.
So what does Memory Alpha say about that? Does it say like, and then they went up to
I
these
haven't
uniforms,
looked.
and then later, and then later in 22 whatever, they went back to the old uniforms for a week.
Yeah, I haven't looked. It is internal to look at. Really, it is painful shit. Really, sometimes Memory Alpha trying to make everything that's on screen 100% canon and ignoring visual reboots. But yeah, there's a minor thing there, but again, who cares? Where the hell were we in the episode anyway? Because we've gone on so many different tracks.
At this point now, we're on the ship, and now we get to the point where we start meeting the rest of the crew. We hear a mention of a Lieutenant Kirk, and we of course make some assumptions at that point. And we hear a mention of a chief engineer who we do not meet in this episode, but like we mentioned before, we meet him very briefly at the end of the episode. We meet both of these characters, but we move on from that. And at that point, we then meet Kamina Drummer.
Yes. Well, the lookalike, and to be fair to her, she looks different in motion. But when we had those cast announcements, I was like, that's just Kara G from The Expanse, surely. And she's done well, and she's moved from sci-fi to sci-fi, totally. Which a lot of people do.
She looks like her, and like we find out that she's a lot like her. Later on in the episode, we find out that her colony ship was hijacked by Gorn, presumably on a Botany Bay-esque ship. Like she says
maybe not,
because her name is Noonien Singh, and like she mentions like later on when she has like prosthesis done, she has like some things going on where she can't have an anesthetic. So
it's not necessarily can't have, but she definitely doesn't want. So maybe she was asleep when her colony ship was attacked, and now she's got an aversion to falling asleep or some shit like that.
Maybe like if she loses control, she may just turn into a Nazi.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly no confirmation in this episode that she is an augment. If she does have,
for all we know, in the future, Noonien Singh could be like a Jones.
Yeah, she might have superhuman, let's say, senses when it comes to someone attacking.
She definitely seemed to sense like
because
something was fishy. Something was fishy. She was like, "There's something off about this."
Yeah. She's like, "Shit's going on here. We need to raise our shields."
Yeah, man.
And Pike, because he trusts his officers, goes like, "Sure, believe you."
Good management style.
Yeah. He believes his people. And to be fair to him, if they raise their shields, what does it matter? These people, they've never encountered a starship before. What do they know what shields are?
Anytime I ever see discussion, should we raise shields? I'm like, always.
Why don't you have them on constantly?
Like, always. What are you talking about? But also, like, her backstory of being... So her colony ship gets picked up by the Gorn.
Yeah.
And she's obviously subjected to horrible things. We hear about some, like, throughout, this is a pretty... The episode, we have some darker moments with Pike, but then we get into this moment where we learn her backstory and, like, ugh, like, they slice them up or they turn them into fucking breeding sacks Ugh.
and she was the last one and one of the weakest ones to survive. So that the gun must go through. You've got plenty of meat on you. I will eat you first, or I tell you what, you look like you can handle a lot of reptile eggs.
Yeah.
I will fuck into you now, and we'll have load of eggs spawning in you.
And then and then little Kamina Drummer there.
Well, what they do is they toss the weakest one out as like a
slap
they
in the face.
Yeah, they put them on a barge and send them into space, and they're like, no, you're we don't think you've got enough meat on you. We don't think you could hold enough babies in you into space with you, and that'll teach whatever.
As well as being like sent off to like left for dead. Also like being told you're useless.
You're useless, other than like sending a message. You know. We couldn't eat you or fuck into you enough.
Or no one will ever find you, and you'll be floating in space forever for no reason. Bye.
Yeah, but luckily Una, so number one, found her,
and that's why. You mean I was floating in space for days before Inya Lauda found me.
In proper belter style. But yeah, Una found her. Got her in, and presumably got her into Starfleet in the same way Raffi apparently got Eleanor into Starfleet.
Yeah, and like they got the little alien from Star Trek Beyond. I guess same thing. Command has its privileges and everything. Yeah.
So Una got her on there, and Lana may or may not have an aversion to be put asleep. She definitely has. But she's got an aversion to, she seems to maybe have some extra sensory thing. I would say at the moment, sensory, or she's very prone to combat. She's the version of Worf on this bridge.
But also, like, and I do think because she's if she is augmented in some way, I'm not entirely sure that it's. So much about like not wanting to be sedated, not wanting to go back to sleep, or as much as it is like just a general distrust of like medical procedures in general.
Especially when Chapel is talking about messing with her genetics.
Yeah.
How about you don't touch my genetics? I'm genetically superior to you. I think you'll find.
Enough, mate.
Yeah. So like there's the possibility of that, in that character, and if there's one person I think we'll see more of, this was certainly if we're gonna have a extra character beyond Pike, have one episode of them per episode. Like it's gonna be a Uhura's episode next or whatever. This is definitely the La'an episode.
Yeah.
Or one of them. I do reckon we'll go back to her at some point this season.
Yeah, like with spending so much time on this character in the first episode, like this character is. I think that we should definitely expect to go back to this character.
The end of the episode, not to jump ahead, is Pike talking to her about if you want to be part of a crew or there's growth in space, if this episode is anyone's story, it's her and Pike's story more than anyone else. Una's in it for such a short time. Spock has his fuck session or nearly a fuck session, but doesn't get to the, it's more their episode than anyone else. And we'll go back to Lana definitely, but it's definitely theirs. Yeah. But we get onto the ship and get the rest of the crew.
Who else do we meet? We meet M'Benga and Chapel.
Yeah.
Is it M'Benga or M'Benga? M'Benga. I think it's
M'Benga. I believe.
M'Benga.
So he's a friend of Pike's. They've gone camping or wilderness trekking together and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that.
He seems personable with La'ana. He's doing whatever symbol this is to her because he inducted her, and he seems like a personable guy.
That means. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Who knows?
I just recently rewatched the TOS episodes that he's in. He's in it minimum.
Okay. Yeah.
But
I
like
know he slaps Spock, doesn't he?
he slaps Spock,
Yeah.
like Chapel's slapping Spock, and then he comes in, and they're all like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And then Mbenga comes in, and he's just like, "Oh,
I'll get on this.
Right, we're slapping Spock, sweet, boom, boom." And like, if we, from what you get in the TOS episodes that he's in, like, in the first scene he's in, he comes in, and Nurse Chapel is like holding Spock's hand, and like she stops before he comes in, and like, I see no way in which he would have possibly been able to know that Nurse Chapel was holding Spock's hand, but he tells Nurse Chapel, and she's like, Spock's not unconscious. He's in like a meditative state. He probably knows you were holding his hand. And then you see him slap Spock, and then the next episode he's in, it's an alien beautiful woman killing men by fucking up their DNA. And he comes in, and like Spock's like, "How did the autopsy go?" And he's like, "Yeah, the autopsy went well, but like shit's fucked up." And they go,
Yeah.
"Okay." So there's not a lot to go on, but from what you get from TOS, I guess you could say he's no nonsense. He's to it. He's.
But again, if we're gonna have anyone from TOS in this series, it should be that sort of character who has minimal development, but we know is on the ship.
And so you can just like have them be like a character the whole time.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's probably what we'll get from Mbenga. Like he's, we'll get some, insights into his personality and.
Oh yeah.
Nurse Chapel has a personality.
Well, before we go into Nurse Chapel as well,
for
fixing the Mbenga and Bones, why are there like two head doctors on the ship? That ship operates 24/7. Why wouldn't you have like two doctors on there? There's either 200 or 400 people on that ship. You should probably have two doctors, and if they're only doing 12-hour shifts, that is, standard for some doctors, but maybe you want two chiefs of staff. You don't want to be like, "Oh no, our head surgeon is asleep. You'll have to come back in 12 hours time."
Bones, the that guy in his 60s.
Yeah,
he's on all the time.
It's the same as in TNG. They try and rationalize it where the sick bay that we always see is the small officers' sick bay, but there's much bigger sick bays elsewhere. Honestly, wink, nudge, nudge, to deal with the rest of the
when they come into that room, they always have like a heavy stride, like they've just walked across a large room.
But anyway, you were moving on to Chapel.
On to Nurse Chapel, who actually has a personality.
A personality that's not just 100% attached to a man.
No,
where she had like the episode where she was like, "Oh, the love of my life, why are you now a robot?" Or Spock, why can't you love me?
Yeah. Whatever. This Nurse Chapel has big finger guns energy.
Yeah.
She's like, "Hey," and I like that. It's kind of dorky but cool.
And she's got a speciality.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
She can rewrite your genome.
Yeah. I've seen it, and I have been trying to avoid it, as I say, to not bring any other people's thoughts in as my own. But I've seen one or two people complain that then why did they go down to planets and say Spock was Asian if they had this amazing Nurse Chapel technology? And where did this come from?
Maybe Kirk was a knob.
Well, not only that.
In the moment, he's like, "Oh, my friend's Asian," because he thinks he's being funny.
Yeah. Not only that, we see in this episode that, it barely works on Spock for an hour.
Yeah, the brother just did it. He's like, "Honestly, we'll I'll just say some racist shit. Don't bother with the genome thing. It never fucking works."
Yeah.
I'll just come up
and
with some racist
as you
balls.
say, racist shit because it was made in a different time. Yeah. It's where you could have a green-skinned man next to you and just go like,
"Oh yeah,
this dude, Asian."
I've got a friend who's like never watched Star Trek, and him and his missus have just watched TOS, and they were saying like there were some moments where we were going like, wow, this was brilliantly ahead of its time, and there was some other moments where we were just like hiding behind a pillow.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, it can be interesting sometimes. Let's say
it can be a bit yikes.
Enterprise established that Phlox had, he would make people up surgically, or he would stick shit to their faces, like, actual production wise happened. He would stick shit to their faces and they'd just wander into town as people.
I don't necessarily understand why they couldn't do that. In this episode, it's like, we're going to rewrite your genome. It's like, I mean, can't you just put some, like...
Yeah, just glue shit to my face.
Like...
Yeah, it's the trouble of having aliens that look very human but aren't human, that are just shit stuck to their face. Whereas if they had like a third eye that looked around, you'd be like, oh no, well, you can't do that through makeup, or you can't do that effectively through makeup. Let's do that through the genome shit. It works a lot better, and it almost links into.
But
where were we anyway?
So characters, where do we go to? So we've done Mbenga.
We have a minor thing on Uhura. Uhura's just pointed out as like, oh, the cadet Uhura.
Yes.
And she does this thing somewhat later in the episode where one of the aliens they abduct wakes up and she's just talking to him in the turbo lift, and she's just like, well, yeah, I know about your version of racquetball or whatever.
Yeah.
And I heard the best game of racquetball in the past was this. And he's just having a chat. She's put him completely at ease from him being abducted by aliens in his mind.
Yeah, man, because she checked out their Wikipedia. She found out about this sport. She went on Wikipedia. She was just, that's probably what she had. Like, I believe she had a clipboard. I'm picturing her with a clipboard. She had Wikipedia up on an iPad.
Yeah. And, seems like an incredibly personable person, and I'm sure we'll get an episode or two of her in the future. It's just that she was barely touched on this week, which is fun, whatever. Okay, cool.
I'm totally like looking forward to finding out more about her. Well, I mean, we already know a load of stuff, but like again, there's only so much progression that her character can have. But
I mean, the movies have done her. The TOS movies, which were a fair bit of her character, if we're honest, did her a bit dirty, where it's just like, I'll tell you what you'll do, Uhura. You'll barely know Klingon and you will strip to attract men. But like in TOS, when the communication console explodes, she crawls under there in workman's uniform. And, there's no hint of that in the movies. And I hope we see more of her being, obviously a cadet working her way up, but showing her that she can be more capable than just taking off her top and reading a book of Klingon.
We get it in the Kelvin movies. We get Uhura being, queen of the nerds. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that,
I definitely don't think we'll do Uhura Spock in this.
No, I think, that relationship, I suppose, is probably special to the Kelvin timeline.
There's Ortega's on the helm.
Yeah. So, like, Ortega's
and she's
cool.
Fourth in command.
So,
maybe?
What was that?
Because there's...
She's 4 foot tall.
She's fourth in command.
Oh, fourth in command.
No, there's Pike, there's Una, there's Spock, there's La'an. And then when all of those are off the ship, then it goes to Ortega's. So when, again, we know more about the command structure of the Enterprise in Strange New Worlds than we ever know about Discovery, really.
Yeah.
But when all those guys are off the ship, she's in the chair and she says, like, when the alien that gets abducted is running around, she's like, it always happens when I'm in the chair. Which is a very,
that alludes to like some history.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that we're not going to get like a young officer who's kind of still figuring stuff out. Like, this character seems to know what the score is to an extent.
And she seems to be a bit of quip or comic reliefy style.
Yeah, glib type.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we got with Sulu in Kelvin, you know?
Yeah. I can see that. And she's certainly there's obviously helm and weapons control up front.
Yeah, so
And
it's a different setup to what we get later in Trek. So like it's
yeah.
helm and weapons, and then navigation.
Yeah. And the woman Ortegas is sitting next to, I think, is a bit of a non-character.
Yeah, like we get like I've got a note written here. Obviously it's not Ops, but I've got Ops written here.
Yeah.
I just put Ops is doomed.
Yeah, she's gone. Really,
she's doomed. Like
Yeah.
like to use naval parlance, she's got the black spot. Let's just quickly now before we get back onto Ortega's. I'm just gonna quickly check out the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get a Strange New World episode where they hold up a mirror to a planet that has too many streaming services and it's impossible to watch things in certain regions.
The horrific universe that is really,
Oh my God.
if we're honest.
Some dystopian planet.
Yeah.
It's life, Captain, but with too many streaming services.
And they've moved from cable, and then things were glorious.
Yeah.
They had Netflix, and all the platforms, all the producers put their stuff on there, and then they ruined it. Why?
Don't be like us.
They were so close to peace, and then they changed everything.
And then they had, you know, and then we had the streaming wars.
Ah, yes.
And then it became World War III.
Yeah. Well, the streaming wars changed to the eugenics wars, where people augmented themselves so they could catch more streaming services. They got VPNs inbuilt.
There's the metaphor. That's what's going to be in Kamina Drummer Noonien Singh's episode.
Yeah.
When she talks about the eugenics, her ancestors that were in the eugenics wars, and it's all just going to be a metaphor for the streaming wars. But so we were talking about Ortega's.
Yeah, who seems like the fun character of the series, or at least the quip character of the series.
Yeah, the badass. I've got them written down as tough Tom Paris.
Oh, hopefully she's not Tom Paris. I'm a great hater of Tom Paris. I'll try not to get into it, but Tom Paris is a dickhead.
He's a massive.
Every day of the week, that guy takes. And decides,
I mean, everyone on the bloody crew can't be perfect. So far, everyone's awesome. Maybe Ortegas is a sleaze.
Maybe. I hope not.
I'll round
I hope she's not to the level of Tom Paris. Jesus Christ.
Someone's got to be the sleazy one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the engineer, the blind Ina. Maybe he's the sleazy one.
There we go.
So we get to that, and then we get to this. So after we've met all the characters, Spike makes his speech to the crew, saying what the mission is and everything. And and then we go from that into.
And he's a fucking downer, isn't he?
Totally,
really. If we're honest, he's so consumed about him dying. He's like, and no one dies here today.
Yeah, man. It feels like he's putting a brave face on, and it feels like it is taking a lot out of him.
Yeah. And what I was saying before about Spock picks up on that because they've got that history. You see Spock just like turned his chair, and when everyone's turned their chairs back and they started working again, Spock is like, what the fuck's up with you?
Yes.
I need to have words with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do have words. And Pike, I keep because we're talking about Spock and Pike, I keep accidentally wanting to say Spike.
That's a couple name. It's like Bradgelina or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Like from before there was Spurk, there was Spike.
But
so
in
Spike have a chat.
Pike's room, so they go into Pike's room, which is a bit bigger than the TOS sets because sets now can be a bit bigger.
So we go from so we're in this like conversation with Pike and Spock, and it's at this point now where Pike is telling Spock about what happens on Borath. So So like Pike's been like keeping this shit in,
Mhm.
you know, and he tells Spock, and I love that line of like, you know, when Spock's like, is it soon?
He says it. He says it's in
10
about 10 years.
And he's
Yeah.
like, in 10 years. He's like, is it in 10 years? Is that soon?
Mm.
Like,
It's like it feels much sooner now. I know it's 10 years
yeah.
away.
And like, it's such a fucking like, ugh, it's such a like you feel throughout this episode that like he does have this like thing hanging over him.
Mm. Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, it is good thematically for the episode where he's like, you know, I know about, I've seen death coming, and for the planet, I can see your death coming because, you know, my planet went through that in the past. If I can help you avoid it, then I'll help you avoid it.
Yeah. I know what you're going through, like textually, you know, I can cite sources, but I also have like an emotional perspective on what you know. And yeah, it's a he just, you know, first episode in, you know, even after just like I honestly think that if someone didn't watch Discovery season 2, you could go into this series and you just get this feeling that this character is a full character, like he's fleshed out, and there is a lot of depth going on.
Yeah. I did have as one of my main like minor complaints of the episode that it has to retread a bit of Discovery to get to where you need to be.
But the exposition is like exposition is a fact of life, man.
But you need it for, you know, Discovery season 2 was a good number of years ago, and a lot of people quit out before Discovery season 2, if we're honest. Or before the end of it.
Probably were going to be, and a lot of those people that cut out were probably tempted to jump in and watch Strange New Worlds, because it is, you know, it is presented as being, you know, a lot of the, you know, what a lot of people complained that they weren't getting out of Discovery.
Yeah, they've done well on marketing it. You know, they've been pushing marketing that is, you know, oh, there's single stories that, you know, are complete in an episode. You know, it's back on the Enterprise. It's all the things you love. They've done a lot of that marketing up front, really.
Which is funny because like a lot of like, you know, you go back a few years and the Kelvin movies were being advertised as like not your granddaddy's Star Trek.
Yeah.
But now Strange New World is like, this is kind of like your granddaddy's Star Trek if you want it. So where do we get to? So we've done everything. So now we're into the mission.
Yeah. So the mission is we've realized that it's not they thought maybe, or Una maybe thought that the planet was developing a warp drive, but it's not a warp drive. It's a warp bomb. They've done the mirror timeline first contact scene where the Vulcans come down and Zefram Cochrane shoots them. Yeah. Kind of close to that, yeah.
I would say it's kind of it's a very TOS conceit where like, oh, they've got like a warped version of warp technology, but like it definitely kind of feels like something that they would maybe do on the Orville, and that's just because the Orville is doing that kind of episodic storyline where why don't we take this concept, turn it on its side a bit.
Well, it's very Orville and very TOS.
Yeah.
You know, two parts of a planet that are at war, and our stupid heroes have bumbled into it.
Yeah.
Because they're idiots at some point. You know, so it's I'm not good at episode names, but maybe it's Operation Annihilation, where there's two halves of a planet, and
Let
they
that
are
be your last battlefield.
No, I'm thinking the one where it is, and this does have let this be your last battlefield, but the planet where they have a machine that calculates a war, and then they just walk into suicide booths. You know, it's very that there's this ongoing struggle going on, and the crew just lands themselves in it because they're idiots. And they don't get out of it because it's General Order 1 or Prime Directive. Because, you know, because the TOS crew didn't, you know, in TOS times, people were renegades and they just did what the shit they wanted.
So there is this very kind of next generation discussion about, like, you know, the parameters of General Order 1, of non-interference, and, like, because of what's happening on this planet, the stage of development that they're at, which is about where we're at now. You know, like, are we okay to interfere? And, like, basically the way that it's resolved at the end is, like, because essentially, it's all a bit messy. It's all a bit messy. You weren't necessarily allowed to interfere, but you weren't not allowed to interfere.
Yeah. So the general gist of it is that this planet saw through telescopes or whatever the end of Discovery Season 2, apparently 1 AU, so 1 sun away, which doesn't make sense, but, you know, breeze past it. The battle at the end of Season 2 of Discovery, where it's the Section 31 ships that have been co-opted by Control, that has been co-opted by the future AI, versus Discovery and the Enterprise. So they've seen through their satellites or whatever all this happening, and they've gone like, oh shit, we've made readings now of a warp drive, and we're going to use those readings to make a bomb.
Then, and, like, it's, how do I put this? They're at the same level of development that we are. But they see an advanced technology and they immediately make a weapon. And I struggle to like come up with a way in which that wouldn't happen here. You know, it definitely speaks to, like, a metaphor about, like, you know, humanity and turning.
I mean, it's a fantastic metaphor. The metaphor of the episode is, like, maybe Earth could be better right now if we stopped shitting about and fighting each other.
There are, like, you know, some of my favorite moments in Trek is when one character is giving a speech to another, but they may as well be staring directly down the barrel of the camera and saying it to the audience. Like,
and, you know, that's what this episode is, where it's like, you know, shit happens from now in the Star Trek universe, in the Star Trek timeline. Shit happens from now. But maybe you could, because we know and because we're shouting at you to maybe avoid this shit. You know, maybe we can, and, you know, hopefully we can avoid world.
Maybe
I'd prefer 30% of the population not dying.
Hopefully we can avoid the what is implied to be the inevitable conclusion of all of this. Maybe. So we're on the planet. We're learning about this situation. Then we are treated to real nice comedy of errors. With disguises and bleeping metal detectors and just a lot of stalling for time.
I've seen, I can't remember who, but maybe we can answer a person in the group commenting on the episode that they didn't like the transporter changing people's clothes. Do you have any strong opinions, yay or nay?
That's fine. They did it in the Batman 1960s series. They go down the flagpole. It's basically that. They went down the transporter flagpole. And they
TOS from my recollection of unfortunately an episode titled that I can remember, Menage a Troy. That they strip clothes off people through transport. You know, I don't care that much, because it seems to make sense if you can transport anyway, and it saves on production costs. If we're honest, it's a production cost saver in that you don't have to dress people up in certain fucking clothing to go into a room to then be magicked away to a planet. You just go, oh, they wear their main uniform all the way to the transporter. Then they go onto the planet. And they're in this magic. They've got a different hairstyle. They've got different clothes on. So I don't care that much, if I'm honest.
I did honestly, I didn't even think about it. With the amount of like ridiculous transporter shenanigans that went on in this episode. I think that the outfit change is like easy compared to what beaming a genome sample
into someone's eye,
into someone's eyeball.
Which Lieutenant Carl must be the O'Brien of his day, really. He is like, he's shit hot on transporters. He's like, no, that's never been done before. Yeah. Okay, in 5 minutes, I will get it done.
Mate, I just fucking fired DNA into someone's fucking eyeball. I am the shit. I bet his fucking YouTube, like, live stream of like, they said I couldn't do it, but I did this. I bet his gamer YouTube stream compilations are fucking amazing.
Which, you know, it makes sense that the reason why we keep seeing Carl in 2S is because he's a good transport room chief. He's a good engineer.
And that's why he has no personality, because he's like, listen, I am on the clock. I'm here. I'm on the clock. I'm beaming shit into people's eyeballs.
Yeah. Scotty is the version of like LaForge, and Kyle is the version of O'Brien, where he knows so much about transporters. He's like, oh, can it be done? Yeah, I can get you to a mirror universe, I suppose. I'll work it out or something like that.
I'll figure it out.
So yeah, they get into the facility anyway. They go down. They find Una.
We find Una and science officer. And like I'm confused.
Okay.
About the setup going on there with their imprisonment, because these are aliens, and like they're being imprisoned just isn't how. It's just not what the X-Files showed me about what happens when aliens get caught down here.
Yeah.
Like it definitely feels like there should have been more of a quarantine setup. There should have been more like tents and shit, guys walking around in hazmat suits.
Yeah. It's a bit weird that you can just get an elevator down to them, really.
Yeah. Like there definitely should have been more of a quarantine setup.
Yeah.
But maybe this planet, maybe planet Kylie Minogue didn't have a COVID, so they don't have good quarantine protocol.
Yeah, I like as well that they didn't make Una and the two scientists, whatever it is, Lieutenant Key and whatever the other one is named. They're not trying to they're not waiting it out or trying to like just be rescued. They're trying to Shawshank their way through a wall. And Spock's like, yeah, this would work if you were higher up. You know? So it's still the Federation way of like trying to escape yourself if you can, or try and set up your escape. But don't be surprised if you're 200 feet underground that you're not going to be able to be transported out.
Yeah.
So we get Una, the two scientists out there. People spot them. They manage to take them all down because they're fucking combat.
On the escape, we get a little flex of like, where Una's like, and that's when we find out how these people have gotten this technology. And she's like,
Una says, we can't speak about this in front of her because this is classified.
It's classified as all hell. We can't talk about that.
Yeah.
So we find out that like they are trying to kind of uphold that, like, keeping everything that went down with Control a secret. I'm wondering whether or not that kind of conspiracy will grow. This kind of, there is this secret thing. La'an finds out about it. I wonder if more people find out about it. I wonder if the whole keeping of Control a secret becomes a plot point.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see the return of Control.
Hope not.
Same.
We did evil AIs for Discovery season 2, Lodex season 1, Picard season 1.
Well,
if we don't go back to it, then I'm happy at the moment.
This series is episodic, so I think that having Control come back for an episode would be forgivable.
Yeah, I suppose for an episode, I just don't want a season of that sort of stuff again.
God.
So yeah, we have that thing. Pike and the rest wrestle a group of scientists down.
Yeah.
Learn about thing, and then Pike says, "You guys beam up. Spock, stay with me. You're alien enough looking now that your genetic altering has worn off because it was shite."
I love that whole like when he's just like when he like in a very calm and very Vulcan manner just said, "The pain is unbearable."
Yeah,
and then just went, "Sorry guys, excuse me, I've just got to," like he was about to burp. Just like love
which you can understand why,
and then afterwards he's just like.
That was excruciating, doesn't he say, or something like that?
That was excruciating.
Yeah. You can understand why this technology wasn't like used in a lot of Trek, in that you need to put people asleep to augment them because it's incredibly painful. And if they wake up, if the augment wakes, like stops when they're awake, it is incredibly painful as well.
Yeah, man. Like when in TOS, when Kirk gets done up like a Romulan, I bet that like beforehand it was just like, should we do the genome thing? And Spock's like, honestly, mate, I wouldn't.
Not worth it, man.
It's not worth it, mate. Don't bother. Just stick some shit onto your face.
Yeah. So like we get to that point, and Pike's decided that because it's Starfleet's issue that these people know about warp, they're going to be like, it's kind of our issue to fix. So he does the old "take me to your leader" sort of shit.
That and that's another callback to the Davy stood still. Clark comes down, and he's in a lot of ways, when he is taken to their leader, the sequence that we get where Pike is, I wouldn't say being an intermediary, but he's
not at that point. He's only talking to one side, isn't he? Really, he's doing the old, you as the leading power don't want to start a war, but he's only talking to one side, and he's doing the old, elephants when they fight, they only trample the grass, and she's like, yeah, but we've got a bigger stick, and if we don't use our stick, then we're going to turn into the grass. So it kind of needs that both of the rebel leaders and the leading government or whatever in the same room, as well as projecting it onto every screen.
And is that when he meets the leader first, and then they engage in talks, and then he joins them? Is that what happens?
So he sees the leader, they engage in talks, and the leader's like, no, I'm not believing any shit you say. We've got a big stick. We're going to use our big stick. Yeah. He calls down the Enterprise.
And again, that mirrors the Davy stood still, because that's what R2 does, He says,
like, I've got the biggest stick, and, transport me up, and we're going to work out how to deal with this and then come back.
And he gives that speech where he shows footage.
So he comes back.
He shows them footage of us, man.
He comes back when the leading authority and the rebels or whatever, for want of a better name, are fighting in a room, and he comes down and says like, oh shit, sorry to interrupt, but here's what happened when my planet decided to keep fighting amongst themselves. We had a civil war, which went into a eugenics war, which went into World War III. And by the time we were done with it, 30% of the population was gone. You're fucking dead. And he shows all these images to them, and then oh,
some of and what did me in was when he's showing footage of, you know, the shit that went down in the 21st century. Some of the footage that he shows of the January 6th insurrection, you know, as you know, an example of heating up aggressions. And it really just drives home that point of, like I was saying, like he's talking to these world leaders about like, this is the shit that you are heading for, but he may as well be staring directly down the camera and talking to us now, saying like, this is the kind of shit that we are potentially looking forward to.
And you know, if anything, he's talking to our world leaders rather than their world leaders. 100%. You know, is the point of it. And you know,
and while the episode is hopeful and a resolution is met, you know, it fills one with a mixed sense of hope and dread. You know? Yeah,
I mean, by the time he leaves them, he says, you know, because he's linking it to him seeing his own destruction, and he's saying maybe your destruction is as set as my death. But then he says, I even wrote the quote down, like, perhaps somewhere all your ends are as written as indelibly as mine, but I choose to believe your destinies are still your own. You know, you can still change compared to, you know, this is your future. If you don't change, please change. And he gives them the option of join Starfleet or blow yourselves up. And, you know, it's sad, but it's not our issue. We've tried.
Yeah.
And they thankfully go for like the old, they thankfully choose to not blow themselves up.
You know, always a good choice. I hope that we will make the same. So where do we get up to? So we're up to Pike's speech.
Pike's speech. He says to them, you know, either join the Federation or you're going to be fucked. And they decide.
Not in a threatening way. It's just like either
you're not going to be fucked by us. You're going to be fucked by yourself.
Help us, help you, or you will kill each other. Like, it just, this is what you have to look forward to. And like, again, like we've been saying, like the speech, you know, that you just quoted, where he's talking about them, and he's talking about himself, and he's talking about us. Like, honestly, it's just such a wonderful level of writing. Truly, depth, many different levels.
It also introduces to Star Trek, I'm pretty sure, the idea of a second civil war, where, you know, a civil war led into the eugenics war, led into World War III. You know, we look around now, and I suppose we're supposed to know that at least one eugenics war happened in the 90s.
It was with that sheep that they cloned.
Yeah. but we look around now, and, you know, it's easy to see that, you know, maybe there is a second civil war on the way, because the Americas are fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Like, holy fuck. I mean, we live in England. You know, we have, you know, we in England and in the British Isles, and, you know, we have our issues. But America's got some issues.
Oh shit, yeah.
My mum's American. A majority of my family are currently in the United States. Honestly, it's whenever I talk to them, the subject tends to just focus on the socio-economic issues within America, because it's what they're living in, and they are very heavily publicized. And, you know, without realizing it, a lot of issues in America do tend to have knock-on effects for the rest of the world. You know, the shit that goes down in America, it's like being really into a TV show. It's something that we check up on.
Yeah. I mean, there are people doing podcasts about America the same way we're doing this about Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
I was err on the some more news front, and that
news, yeah, that's
yeah, and that the same way as any piece of news or news organization for whatever. I don't agree with 100% of the set of what they say, but that's news, and if you're only watching someone that agrees with 100% of what you say, you need to watch different shit.
But like the thing with some more news is it's presenting American news in what I believe is the appropriate energy, which is like the frantic rantings of a man losing his mind as he tries to make sense of the world going on around him.
Yeah. He's a man on the edge, is Cody.
Yeah.
And that if Pike could present Cody's breakdown in real time.
If like that whole like meeting with Pike and the two leaders could have gone completely different if he was like shaking them like, don't you see?
The leaders are looking at like, why is there a puppet on screen a lot of the time?
Yeah,
like, you just need to live with it. Why is there boars? Because boars were really serious, in the 21st century. But yeah, we thankfully see this civilization on Kali Minogue 279 turn around, and they decide that we don't see them enter the Federation specifically, but they start studying and learning about the Enterprise and pieces around that, implying that they're moving towards being a Federation member, I suppose. So, things look up for that planet and that they go, well, we're not alone. So why the shit are we bumming ourselves? Because, we've got minor differences, maybe.
Big week for people joining the Federation.
Kali Minogue and the Borg are all Federation members. It's how
it's supposed to work.
How everything works now.
Yes, like that's how it's supposed to work. Joining, cooperation, building, growing together.
Yeah,
right. That's how it's supposed to work.
It's how it's maybe supposed to work, but the old Borg thing joining. I have to.
Oh man, that was another thing that made me cry.
Really? You were crying more at Picard than I was.
Oh, I don't know what it was, but because I cried watching Picard. I cried watching Picard hug Q, and then I cried when the Borg joined the Federation. I didn't cry when.
Well, they've joined provisionally.
Big spoilers for Picard. Fucking Wesley Crusher's in fucking Picard. I didn't cry.
Come on, the Wesley Crusher scene. What does that add? What does it add? And what would Core do if Crusher wasn't there?
The only time I have ever been happy to see Wesley Crusher.
Oh, I do not like it. I do not like it.
I didn't cry when I saw Wesley Crusher though, but I did clap. I clapped. I don't know why. I had an emotion. It was an emotional reaction.
I do not like it. And while we're talking on Wesley Crusher, and apologies because we're diverting from Strange New Worlds, and anyone who is like, oh, he is Shil Wheaton. Oh, I am fucking sorry that this dude who's being paid to promote a series in a show that has been revolutionary to his life is being positive about that he loves. Is being positive about that series, even if everything in that series isn't golden. He's not a shill. He's the same way.
He's
like
a Trekkie.
Yeah. Well, that, and you're literally being paid to do stuff. That's not the definition of a shill. I'm sorry, but if you're it'd be the same thing as a person on children's TV being like, don't like this next cartoon, stamping out a fag, being like, nah, this next one is shite, honestly.
It's like it's written for kids or something.
He's not a shill. He's just in part of that. Well, are you so dense that he's that anytime he smiles when he's talking about Picard or Discovery, you're like, oh, this fucking idiot. No, he's of course being paid. He's part of that universe. He likes it. He was part of it. He's an ongoing part of it. You have to be a fucking idiot. You're like, no.
Get fucked. Will Wheaton is like one of us. Can't turn on one of your boys.
A guy who was religiously bullied during his like
Yeah, man.
formative years, and you're just like, oh my god, they're chill.
The
Why don't
fact that
we?
he didn't go full fucking the kid who played Anakin Skywalker and get arrested
Yeah,
holding up a... Wait, what happened to that guy?
bad shit. Yeah,
Oh no,
obviously.
I'm thinking of the kid from Flight of the Navigator. He got
Oh yeah,
he went to jail for holding up a liquor store.
what a shame. I like Platinum Navigator, but
Hollywood,
yeah,
baby, chews him up and spits him out.
yeah. If you're so against Will Wheaton that you will go on message boards calling him Shill Wheaton, grow up. Get a life, move on.
Do you know what I do when I don't like something? Nothing.
Yeah,
I don't do anything. I don't engage. I don't take time out of my day to seek out a platform to go and voice my disdain for something or anything.
we need to watch out because we're talking on we're talking here and broadcasting it on
We are
something that we
broadcasting
might
live on the
eventually
internet.
not like.
And that's the thing. If anyone does have any genuine negative criticisms, send them to Mike.
Yeah, I will try and desperately. Either send it to me on Facebook Messenger because I'm always there apparently, or I'll see if Mate It Show is still free on Gmail before the end of the episode and see if we can get that.
Yeah. And we can get a PO box, and then people can send us gifts. Send me gifts, please.
Definitely. Anyway, where the fuck were we in the episode? So they decide to join the Federation,
the Federation, and then we have a nice meeting. We meet Robert April again. They have a cheeky debriefing.
And Robert April finds out about the end of Discovery season 2. He's like, I found out about that shit, and because all that is hush hush, we can't punish you for breaking.
No, because now we know that Robert April and La'an know about it.
Well, he still says because it's hush hush, we can't punish you for breaking General Order 1 because we can't admit to how they knew about warp drive. But they also say kind of like we're doubling down on it, so don't keep doing this shit. We've stopped calling it General Order 1 and we're calling it the Pram Directive from now on. We can't keep doing this shit.
Yeah, we figured out a loophole for you now, but we have straightened out that loophole, so don't try that shit again. So I'm just on Memory Alpha now, right? I'm just wondering, what are the rest of the General Orders? So we have General Order 1. No starship may interfere with the normal development of any alien life or system. And then it goes to General Order 4.
One of them is you can bomb a fucking planet to death. I know that.
Starfleet expressly forbids the death penalty. Is General Order 4. Then General Order 7. So these are the only... So those are the first 3 that I've got there. So what are the rest of the General Orders?
One of them is you can turn a planet to glass.
Turn a fucking planet to glass.
Yeah, it is, and I can't remember what the reason is, but it's like if there's a planet that is dodgy to such a degree, you can glass that planet. You can just bomb the shit out of it.
I had some suggestions for some other General Orders. So
go for it.
Okay, General Order 2. They who smelt it dealt it.
Smart. I like it.
Okay, General Order 3 is the 5-second rule. So like you drop food on the floor, 5 seconds.
Is General Order 4 that can be extended to a 10-second rule?
No, there is a subset, like General Order 2 subsection B allows for room for debate.
Smart. Like it.
And then, where did it go? And then General Order 3 is related to like what is appropriate for like in a game of TIG, like where is like safe. So like the bridge is safe.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, you can't TIG or tag. You can't tag someone on the bridge or in engineering. But like corridors, Jeffries tubes, open game. turbo lifts safe, no tagging in turbo lifts.
Okay.
So that was General Order 2, 3, 5, and then General Order 6 is like a lot of like drink presentations, like when you make drinks,
Okay.
like spirit to mixer ratios. So
How long down your list do you have to be to glass a planet?
and again, I'm just going based on personal priorities and what I think is important to the day-to-day life, and maintaining ship life and carrying out your duty as a Starfleet officer. So that's what I've got for that.
Yeah, I can live with all that. I can live with all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Robert April says General Order 1 is going to be properly enforced, and it's going to be called the Prime Directive from now on. And you know, there's the old quip where, oh, that'll never stick.
That'll never stick.
Oh yeah. Pike invite La'ana to join the crew and say, you know, there were these seed things that we brought up from Earth during the Third World War, and now they're big, you know, tree things.
I love that. Big forests in space.
Yeah, like, yeah.
We should do that. We should be getting on that.
We've got plenty of space on this planet for fucking trees, mate. We don't need to launch them into space. We don't need Musk to.
We're gonna fuck them up. We need to start planting trees on the moon. But I do love that. Like, and then like he says, like we sent trees up there just because we kind of thought we should, and then after the war was over, we didn't really know what to do with them, so we just kind of left them.
Yeah, but his point is space is a place for growth as well.
Yeah.
And that's growth of character and growth of personality. And although you've got this internal damage, you can grow to work with people in space.
Mm. Yeah.
Which is all cool.
Yeah, it definitely to me that attitude, it very much kind of mirrors a lot of what you see in like the spirit of like the Navyman. You know, like the spirit of the pirate or the master and commander, you know, go out into the high open seas to really find what you're made of. And it reminds me as well of like one of my favorite speeches from all of Trek, which is, you know, Sisko explaining the nature of time to the prophets. And he's like, you know, we're about like coming together and finding answers to our questions and finding new questions.
The point isn't necessarily knowing the answers. It's the struggle for the answers.
It's the friends we made along the way.
Yeah. I mean, and so much of TOS is, you know, you can't skip the hardship of learning the answer or becoming a super being. You need to struggle through and become the super being through your actions, not because you've just been injected with, you know, super being straight into your veins. You know, there is a hardship that you have to go through to become an enlightened person. And that's the same with, you know, the Civil War and World War III, or Civil War II and World War III and eugenics. You know, we have to struggle to know the bad shit that we've done to learn from that. And hopefully in real world, we can learn from the metaphors that we see on TV, including Star Trek, to try and beat some of that so we don't have to live through those struggles. Because I will be too podgy by World War III to live through World War III.
I mean, I'll probably help out in the kitchens. But of course, there is also an extra meaning to that, because this is obviously the first episode of a new series within the narrative of the episode, with Planet Kylie Minogue, with Pike, with us. You know, it's also reflected in that this is the first episode of a new series, and we have a whole journey to go through with this new crew. How does the episode end?
I mean, we get we see Hemner or Hemmer, the Anar chief engineer, beaming on board. And we also see Lieutenant Kirk come onto
Samuel
the bridge.
Kirk.
And it is Samuel Kirk.
Very cheeky.
R. Kirk's brother.
Very, very cheeky indeed.
Especially because we saw the casting announcement, of course, of James T. or James R. Kirk.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same actor.
No, and
It's not
God
the
knows,
same actor.
I wish it was, because
It should have been. It should have been the same actor, because William Shatner played his brother's dead body
with a dodgy mustache on.
with a dodgy mustache, and this guy's got a dodgy mustache. I hope that it was a choice to not make the mustache look good. Well, that mustache looked like shit, so this mustache needs to look like shit.
Yeah,
I hope that was a choice, because that mustache looked gross.
Yeah, it looks a bit like a not necessarily a paedophile mustache, but it's a weird half growth.
It's not a great mustache.
And in TOS, his mustache is a weird, horrible mustache, obviously, because it is
glued on.
It's glued on for when they roll a body over for 30 seconds.
Genome. That's what they should have done. Should have rewritten his genome.
Yeah. So we get him arriving as a science officer underneath, because chief of science is Spock. So Spock is his boss, pretty much.
I hope that there is more of a point to his character than this one fake out gag.
Oh, I think we've got it, because we know Kirk is it eventually in this series.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's how we get from one maybe, because like he's got captain stripes in that one promotional image, and then that one like bootleg image of someone filming from the set. So my thinking is time travel episode.
I think they'll probably retcon, because I was trying to find it before we started. I've got the auto bio of Kirk, and all those that were printed except for the Spock one. I haven't got that yet. In paperback form, because I'm an old man, clearly. And there it talks about the previous ships that Kirk had served on, and I believe it's the Farragut, maybe, as a commanding officer, or a chief lieutenant or something. And I think they're just going to retcon that. So he got a battlefield promotion or whatever.
Yeah, he
was on the Farragut, and someone died, and he's battlefield promotioned up to the commanding officer, the captain of the Farragut.
Yeah, I think he was midshipman. I think
yeah,
my memories. I think because it was the 60s, so they were still using old Navy terms.
In TOS, they have two different ships that he had on. He was previously on just before the Enterprise, and I believe, because I did minor research, a couple of weeks ago of what ship Kirk was on before Enterprise, and there's two different ones depending on what TOS episode you look at, because TOS, barely skates having its own canon. Really,
yeah, they couldn't they couldn't go on to the internet and double check shit. I end up in a lot of discussions about things not being canon, and I always remind them, listen, mate, if you think that this disrupts canon, you haven't watched enough fucking Doctor Who, because over here we get that canon is a fucking loose structure at best.
Well, I always think with Star Trek as well, TOS and TRS especially is barely canon, at least in my mind. Where Roddenberry himself said, when he started doing the early season or the early season or two of TNG, if there was something that he wanted to make canon that flew in the face of TOS, he'd be like, nah, TOS, barely counts. So you're like, well, why are we so hung up as, fans about canon when TOS in the creator's mind sometimes isn't canon, and TAS isn't canon up until the point it is again?
People,
You know,
people obsess over minutia. You know?
Yeah, and God knows I do it as well. You know, I like a uniform and a ship more than you probably should. But
I don't like. I think that there is a je ne sais quoi of what is appropriate to discount as continuity.
Yeah,
like, and it's and it's
if Spock turned up and he was Klingon, you'd be like, "What the shit is this?"
That's not okay. But
yeah.
if it's things like one that always kind of does my head in, that like goes against General Order 4, which is the not being allowed to talk about the Talos incident under penalty of death. Like,
yeah,
I think, like, even though within that episode it's fairly central to the plot of the episode that they're not supposed to be talking about it under penalty of death. But I also think that that's a perfectly fine thing to ignore, because, like, penalty of death's a bit fucking extreme, guys.
It's you've got to live with a lot of this stuff, and if you can't live with it, if you can't live with minor retcons in sci-fi, then maybe sci-fi and fantasy aren't your genres. Maybe you want natural history,
or you can go fucking Grant Morrison style with Batman and just say, listen, it's all canon.
It's all canon, even the things that don't make sense to each other.
Even the things, full Garrick. It's all true, even the lies, especially the lies. My recommendation for anyone is justify canon in whatever way that takes up the least amount of emotional energy. Like, if you're getting upset, don't. Rationalize it up its own arse if you have to. But just don't fucking stress out about it.
If you want to headcanon stuff, that's fine. But
I love headcanon stuff.
There's
I love hearing random people's weird headcanons.
There's people out there that are so against any sort of change that they'll hate anything immediately after. People when they saw that Strange New Worlds TOS bridge version, are so against it because of the color of the ramp or the color of the support being orange and not red. And you go like, have you ever seen paint before? Paint can go on stuff and make one thing a different color. So why don't we, we talked about the episode or whatever. Why don't we move on to like our hopes for the season, let's say. Or no, let's do, I don't have much for this section, but references and other crap.
Well, we had reference, we had the communicator, we had references to the Gorn, which makes sense because as far as I remember, when we meet the Gorn in the TOS episode, they're all like, "Oh shit, it's the Gorn."
Well, the TOS arena is apparently first contact Starfleet proper has with the Gorn. So it's a bit early, but fine. It's the first contact.
Obviously, we get to Pring and some references there.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole show is
the horniest Vulcan that we know. How about the map?
Down to Clown from the start.
Oh yeah, she's after everything, isn't she? She's Vulcan, but 7 years is it comes around very often.
I'm thinking the way I rationalize that, because I just refuse to believe that that's a thing, is that like 7 years is the mating, breeding urge.
Yeah,
but like they must have natural ongoing carnal urges. They have to.
They don't only fuck every 7 years. They fuck in between, but the desire to fuck is insatiable every 7 years. They like absolutely need to.
Yeah, every 7 years
do this sort of
have
thing.
Babies.
Yeah,
that's we need to make babies.
Yeah,
It's the Vulcan equinox. It's the spring festival.
Forget about societal pressure for like having kids. You know, they don't need any of that on Vulcan. It's just like, oh, you wait, 7 years comes along, you'll at least want to do like this sort of stuff. And
Yeah,
then
they
this
love
sort of
that.
stuff
They
comes
love a
onto
bit of that.
babies, you
They love a
know.
bit of that.
We do get a fair bit more info on like the cycle because it's like, oh, to Pring, you're wearing mating clothes. It's
That's why
like,
I'm thinking that
okay,
like this episode
yeah,
must be roughly 7 years before mock time. Roughly.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe?
I mean, okay, let me try and work it out because no, I reckon it might be 14 years because
14?
when you think about it,
When was Discovery
Pike,
set? I thought Discovery was set like the first season of Discovery was 10 years.
no, but think about it. Pike gets irradiated almost 10 years away.
Right, let's
So
have a look.
he's
We've
like
made fun of Memory Alpha a lot, but let's check. Let's see what Memory Alpha's saying.
I've got a timeline for half for the end of Discovery and then the start of Strange New Worlds here. Because when you think of it, if Pike is saying, you know, I'm going to get irradiated in almost a decade away, then it at least needs to be a decade away before the menagerie.
I see what you're saying. So maybe it's 2 mating cycles.
Yeah. I don't think that necessarily fits either, but it's closer to 2 than 1, or at least has to be more than 7. So maybe T'Pring's gone like, she's gone 7 years and she's like, she's pushing on 8 and she's getting hornier and hornier, you know.
Well, maybe the traditional mating clothes that she's wearing, maybe that's just a signal.
You
know?
I did like in the Vulcan restaurant where it's the waiter comes around when they're kissing and he's just like, not here, please. This is far too emotional. Do this at home. Leave. You know?
Yeah.
Like the prudiest.
Because he does say the star date in the episode. I remember that.
He says 2 completely different ones that are off by like 100 or 1,000 days.
Oh God.
Yeah. Because it might be referencing TOS dates were fucked up.
Dates were all over the shop. Yeah.
So while you're searching anyway, I've got the map pulled up when they show the map of Starfleet and systems that they bumped into that had warp drive, and they've amalgamated it into the Federation, and ones that they haven't. You can see Cardassia and Bajor next to each other. Obviously not in the Federation.
I mean, they're close-ish in the grand scheme. They're about as close as we are to like the second closest star system. So like to us it's far, but to warp capable societies less.
I mean, they're worryingly close to the main Federation, considering we had a war with Cardassia at some point.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there was just like, I mean, you know, just comparing it to the real world, you know, immediately what comes to my mind is like Japan had a long period of not allowing interference from the outside world for a long time.
Well, that and presumably Cardassia was ahead of us for a fair bit of time.
Maybe it was a case of like, you know, we couldn't get there. They wouldn't. They wouldn't let us.
I can see Talos. I can see Trill. I can see. So Trill's apparently quite close to us. I can see a couple of Starbase 9s and a couple of the other named Starbases.
Kind of sounds, just by going off just upon my recollection of Star Trek Online, I think they're going with the Star Trek Online map.
Yeah. So I think they're going with the generally accepted map where, you know, the Klingon space is east or southeast. You know, if we were looking top down, the Romulan space is northeast.
Okay, so just going by, sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
But just going by what I'm reading here, just going by the star dates spoken out loud in this episode of Strange New Worlds and Amok Time, they are set 1,000 years apart.
1,000 years apart.
Yes. Just going by what I'm reading here. But, so yeah, never mind.
Yeah. It's fantastic star bases, star dates sometimes.
Yeah.
On the star map as well, there's Denobula that is right next to the Romulan Empire, which there's been a theory floated before, and I might have spoken about in the group, that the reason why we don't see Genobulans after TOS or, TOS or beyond is once the Romulan Empire started, throwing shit around, is Denobula got absorbed into their space. So that there's a good number of planets that are named planets that we're supposed to know in the maps, but I'm not going to go through them all because time's too short and my resolution is too low of the copy I legally acquired from Paramount Plus. And
plus, it's not even a 3D map. Like, how much could you possibly glean?
Yeah, space in Star Trek, other than getting to the edge of the galaxy in TOS. So I presume it must be 3D space because we've just gone up. Is the only rationing for that works.
Well, the funny thing about like the show, everything being set in 3D space, in Wrath of Khan, there's that moment where like Spock reminds them that they are in 3D space and they can go up and down, but the ships are still like and he just like, instead of like going sort of perpendicular, they still just drop levels, and so they're still like, they're not on the same plane, but they're still sort of parallel.
Yeah,
they're just moving up and down different planes instead of like going full like moving around in the space. Like,
it's one thing that Discovery did very well in its first season. It's the first time you see two ships meet. They are completely off angle.
Yeah, totally.
And you're like,
totally.
Oh, okay. One of us is the right way up.
Yeah, and that's how I would imagine that shit going down. That, or you go to like the Expanse logic, and like two ships that are like in battle with each other are actually like fucking just miles and miles and miles and miles away from each other, and they're just they're sending bombs that are taking 2 or 3 minutes to get to each other. So we get to the end of the episode.
We've done the end of the episode with any references.
We've done like some references, and we've gone off on a tangent on references.
Okay.
I think we get to the end of the episode, and then we get the preview for the next series, for the series coming up. Did you catch the preview? Were there any
I try not to watch it too intently because I don't want too much of it spoiled for me.
Right. I will say like a couple of things that stood out to me.
Yeah, go for it.
Uhura is wearing a uniform variant that has the loose neck.
Yeah, I saw that in the trailers as well. The more classic rounded female neck version. Yeah.
There is a fight scene with I guess Vulcan halberds.
Okay.
The weapons from Amok Time.
Yes, yeah.
I seem to remember Spock fighting someone with a Vulcan halberd in a white uniform.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So I'm just gonna make sure. Okay, so we go. Nice, yeah. So nice view of the ship. A lot of people in uniform, looking all good. Some like what looks like a meteor, an asteroid or something heading for a planet. I guess that's a good one episode thing to deal with. Very
Yeah.
TNG-ish. A lot of people looking at each other very seriously. Ortega's making a quip. EV suits.
The same EV suits as Disco, I noticed,
Yeah.
or very similar to the
Very
Disco
similar.
suits.
Where
Yeah.
I think what they've done is they've taken like the overall like pattern of the EV suits from the TOS and they've just made it a bit tighter and slicker and shinier.
Which, to be fair, if they were going to take any sort of costume from Disco, I'd rather they took the spacesuit rather than try and make a TOS style. Oh, it's a orange fabric, or it is a whatever.
I like the
just a weird fabric.
I like the TOS
spacesuit
suits.
Yeah, they wouldn't fly nowadays. So if they're going to take anything, they might as well take the EV suits from Disco.
Oh, okay. So the shot where I'm picturing Spock having a fight with someone in a white suit, that's because just before the shot of Spock having a fight, there is a shot of Nurse Chapel.
Okay.
So there are two separate shots. But yeah, he's fighting what looks like a dude. Couple shots of Spock clenching his fists, feeling some of those pesky human emotions. And then some fun shots of the engineer and Mbenga in like some sort of local cultural dress, and the engineers physically emoting.
Okay. I do hope next episode has a bit of focus on Hemmer or Hemner, the chief engineer.
Hemner.
It's Hemmer or Hemner, the chief engineer. We do need a bit of focus, and this episode probably did good not having him on the ship, because let's say he needs a bit of an introduction on, because he's an alien race, we need to have a bit of time on him.
Yeah.
So keep him off there for the first episode. There's a reason behind it, and next episode we can have a bit of focus on him, hopefully.
Anything else you're looking forward to? I know for me, I've already said I'm looking forward to some more Klingon stuff.
So why don't we do like hopes for the season? What stories would you like, and what series don't you want?
I want some Klingon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping we get a time travel episode. I like doing weird stuff with time. I love so it's some kind of time loop, or some kind of time dilation. I love shit like that. In terms of like social issues, I would really like them to touch on some, and not just like a couple, drawn out throughout the whole series. I'd like us to I'm just honestly, more than anything, I'm looking forward to seeing what the series has for us. I'm trying not to have too many hopes.
Yeah.
But just going off this episode and going off the preview and from what we've been led to believe, I'm looking forward to being surprised more than anything.
How much are you hoping? Because I don't know how long the season is. I presume it's around 10 to 15 episodes. So how much do you want existing races, existing situations as percent of that? Would you be happy if it was less than 50, or do you want Klingons back in again? Klingons, Andorians, whatever, for 50% of the episodes.
I'm perfectly happy with a 50-50 split. Perfectly happy with the 50-50 split, because like the in terms of using things that we already have that's already baked into Trek, like like you say, races and concepts, General Order 1, Klingons, mentioning the Gorn and stuff. That is all mise en scène. It's all just it's the setting, and it's the actual stories where they have opportunities to bring in new stuff. So cold opens where the captain is in the middle of a negotiation with a race we already know. Cool. Opening credits, onto a new adventure, meeting someone new. Like, I'm cool with stuff like that, 100%. So yeah, nice even 50-50 split. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
And yourself?
I think because it's, the series is called Strange New Worlds. I would probably err on the side of we're probably going to get Klingons because it's the time for it,
and it's Star Trek,
and it's Star Trek, and the actress Mary Chieffo, Mary Chief for L'Rell is still out there.
She's still Mother.
Yeah. And presumably that's got to evolve before it gets to TOS, because, not only is it not referenced in TOS, because of course it wouldn't, because the stories were written 60 years afterwards. But
and also
the Empire is of a different structure.
In and around 10 years apart. And, 10 years, that's more than enough time for everyone to completely lose all knowledge about a subject whatsoever. I mean, just look at Star Wars.
But the Empire in TOS seems to be a different structure than it is in the End of Disco.
It's more like I've just listened to Our Andy's podcast.
Oh,
he just had an episode on Klingons, and it is, like his guest was saying, it's more of a kind of a militaristic sort of. I mean, is it a militaristic dictatorship?
Who knows in TOS? It's very weird in TOS. Yeah.
Militaristic government. In TOS it's all an allegory for the fascist Soviet dictatorship. So
there probably needs to be, or that there's space to do a bit of walking around from the L'Rell situation and having a bomb in the center of Kronos. To where it ends up in TOS, and you can even, it doesn't necessarily need it, but you can even try and have a second run at explaining why the Klingons move from being disco Klingons to being TOS Klingons. You can have a second run at that.
Like we mentioned, like you mentioned the caste system, and that very much feeds into what we learn about the Federation later in DS9, when they're talking to, when Bajor is toying with the idea of returning to a caste system, and they're like, if you do that, you cannot join the Federation. Like, it's a thing that we are against.
I would be surprised if any Ash Tyler Section 31 stuff showed up in season 1 at least.
I doubt it.
There's opportunity for it, but because Pike somewhat respects Ash Tyler. He let Ash take a shuttle off at the end of season 2 to get the Klingons involved. And then Ash Tyler ends up in charge of Section 31, the new Section 31. I don't think it's going to be in this season.
No. I mean, if we do get any Section 31, I think it would be cool to maybe get some more Mira Georgiou.
Maybe she ended up. Yeah, maybe she ended up in this time frame. Maybe she didn't. We don't know where she kind of crapped out on.
I think it'd be cool if he literally, I think it'd be funny if the Guardian of Forever was like, he was so vague about where he was sending her, and then he takes her and he's like, yeah, I'm just taking you back to where you were. That's fine.
Yeah.
I just do like Michael, but if she knows where you end up, she may come back.
Yeah. She'll ask you to pass messages to Ash Tyler.
Yeah.
Vok.
Do you still like me?
Yeah. Heart. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be certainly a season 1, but maybe I can see them straying into it for a season 2, bringing Clem Fandango back for an episode. Sarek, I can maybe see being part of it.
Sarek, that'd be cool to get some Sarek in there. That'd be very cool. I don't know what else Could we have? Because like it's the weird thing with prequels, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
like there is a limit to what we can potentially see. Like we can't have all out war with the Cardassians.
No.
We can't
No.
we can't have Romulans in any form really. Like, which is a shame because like I like the Romulans and I feel like the Romulans have been like underused throughout all of Star Trek.
And more recently given an unfair shake, probably, in the times that they are used.
Yeah, although I will say I love the Romulan tattoos. The what like that.
Oh yeah.
I need more Romulan tattoos.
09. Yeah.
Honestly, like because what does it for me with that is in the Countdown graphic novel how those tattoos are explained. And it's this like it's explained as like this Romulan grieving custom where they put like henna tattoos on their faces, and then as the henna fades, as does the mourning period.
Yeah.
But obviously their home has been completely fucking vaporized.
So they really tattoo themselves. They don't henna themselves.
That pain is never going away.
Yeah.
And like it's like that is probably the best usage of the Romulans, in my opinion, in any way. And it literally took up 2 boxes in a panel in a comic book. And like, I just like that aspect of their culture. I just think it's just so beautiful and deep. And it's just kind of a throwaway thing in a graphic novel. And I just think that, you know, if that was a real world custom, I'd be like, that's kind of beautiful, man. But yeah,
it verges on the tattooing your ex's name on yourself, because you'll never live without her or whatever. But it is a bit more beautiful than that, a bit more poetic, a bit less longing for than that.
Yeah, honestly, and I think this is just because of a podcast that I've been listening to, a podcast series. Probably my second or third favorite podcast. Last Podcast on the Left. Definitely a recommendation. They're doing a series on Blackbeard at the minute. I want to see some space pirate shit.
Some Orions.
Orions.
The Orions are around,
totally
now.
Get some space pirate shit in there, man.
Yeah.
Like a real kind of like, old school, like Master and Commander, ship versus ship, tete-a-tete.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd like some cool submarine battle stuff.
Yeah. Do you want to know the one character I want from TOS brought into this is Gary Mitchell.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Because we have this whole thing with Gary Mitchell with the first episode of TOS. You go from him being like, he's Kirk's mate, obviously his best mate, but he's a bit of a joker for about 5 minutes. And then they hit the edge of the galaxy and he turns into this weird megalomaniac god with shining eyes and all that. And he has the, I'm not jokingly, sort of thing. So have him in this and establish him as a character. So then when you flow on to, if you try to watch these in chronological order, then you'd have Gary Mitchell built as a character. And then you'd go like, oh shit, Gary Mitchell is now like the character that I now like. He's not just a throwaway for 5 minutes. He's a character and now I feel like I've lost him.
That'd be cool if they could bring Gary Mitchell in and make him like quite like a light-hearted character that you just kind of like a hey, it's all cool. Like make him like a character that you just kind of like as just like a guy.
Have him joke with Lee, and then when in Where No Man Has Gone Before, he's like, "I'm not joking, Lee." That's the. Oh my God, this isn't Gary Mitchell anymore because he's not joking. Totally. He's completely different. He's not the Gary Mitchell I love. He's this god now. You can do that shit in this.
That's some good writing, Mike.
Yeah, I'll submit a story draft to them, and it'll be thoroughly ignored, of course.
Well, you just need to suggest that you play Gary Mitchell,
Well, yeah.
and then they'll be like, we'll do it.
Do they want a 30-odd-year-old English guy playing Gary Mitchell, Kirk's best mate?
And then like if anyone says, well, in the original series he was things in American, and then you just say, listen, it doesn't matter.
This is how it is now.
Yeah, man. Sarek was British. Sarek was British in the Kelvin movies. Robert April is black now. The transporter chief is Asian. I'm English.
Yeah.
Get over it. That's a direct quote from the episode.
Yeah, as it should be.
And then everyone's like, what do you mean he's black now?
Yeah.
But I think that, honestly, this first episode, just keeping it light, no pressure, allowing ourselves to make mistakes. I don't think this is going to go on for as long as it's gone on tonight, because tonight we're working out.
We've done a lot of the setup of the universe.
Yeah, we're the setting up of the universe of the show, and also of Mate It Show, and we're working out what kinks we need to iron out. It's all good.
It's how we learn. You know,
Absolutely.
if there's one thing we should know from Trek, it's, you know, being able to learn from your mistakes or learn from others and build and improve. And we will do that in time.
Yes, accept that the original vision is a working process.
Oh yeah, we'll never be perfect, but we will strive for betterness of ourselves and whatever.
Yeah, we won't let what happened to those that came before us befall us, or we will, or maybe something. What was the moral of the episode again?
Don't blow yourselves up.
Yes, we won't blow ourselves up.
Yeah. And you know how perfect a time we are. We've just moved on to less than 1 minute left.
Oh shit! Quick. The last thing.
So,
I really need a haircut, and I think like Anson Mount's haircut as Captain Pike looks quite good.
it looks pretty smart. I mean, he's going to have to dye his hair before he gets Delta Rays put in him, because he had darker hair then. But you know,
yeah, maybe
that's
an effect of his face melting.
Yeah, it's going to be like in 9 years' time. It's going to be like, hold on, I reckon it's time for me to dye. I need to dye my hair.
You want to dye your hair? Oh, you want to go to this place? I was gonna say, you want to dye your hair? You want to go to this place I go? What they do is they bombard your head with delta radiation until your hair changes colour. It's dead good. Right. Oh, that was fun. Live long and prosper, motherfuckers.